In today's video, we look into the chilling disappearance of Maureen Kelly, a Vancouver teen who seemed to vanish into thin air. Connected to the strange missing 411 mysteries, her case raises more questions than answers, leaving investigators and loved ones searching for the truth. Maureen Kelly went to Canyon Creek Campground near Cougar, Washington with a group of friends when she was only 19 years old. It was the summer of 2013. She took off all of her clothes around 5 p.m. that night and told her friends she was going on a spiritual quest. She said she'd be back by midnight. Maureen didn't come back. Her friends told the police the next morning that she wasn't there, but they quickly realized that this case was much stranger than they thought it would be. So what did Maureen do? Was this just a case of getting lost in the forest, hurting themselves, or foul play? Or is this yet another troubling case of missing 411 going missing? Most of us know that camping or hiking in the woods can be very dangerous, but it can also be very rewarding and relaxing. It is important to be as ready as you can be because there are wild animals to think about. The temperature could drop very quickly or you could get lost. However, not all trips into the wild are planned ahead of time. Being able to act on the spur of the moment is fine, but you still need to be smart to make sure you can get out of the woods and safely get home. But sometimes even the most well-prepared people can be caught off guard by something unexpected, and Maureen Kelly is no different. But before we get into the full story, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more real-life crime stories, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. And let me know in the comment, which country are you watching from? I want to know how far this case is reaching around the world. Let's get into it. Maureen Kelly was only 19 years old in 2013. Her friends and family called her Anu. She was born in September 1993 in Vancouver, Washington, and grew up there by herself with her mother. A lot about Anu's early life is unknown. Her family hasn't told us much about her childhood, and the only thing we know for sure is that Anu was from a Pacific Islander family. After a while, Anu started going to Spokane, Washington's Lewis and Clark High School. The school had been around since the late 1800s, so it was full of history. It was a great spot for Anu. She seems to have made a lot of friends here, and it looks like a great place to grow up all around. On the other hand, her city of Vancouver is very different. Vancouver is in the top 10% of the safest cities in the country, according to Neighborhood Scout and city data. To say that Anu grew up in a dangerous place would be an understatement of the highest order. This must have had an effect on Anu's attitude and the way she lived her life. Anu was a very spiritual person, even though she lived with the worst people in the world. She loved being close to nature and accepted the more natural parts of people. Anu thought that when we are born, we are as linked to the earth and Mother Nature as we will ever be. As she gets older, she thinks that we lose touch with the world around us and are affected by outside forces, many of which are not good. Anu loved hiking and was known for being polite and carefree. When she wasn't doing those things, she liked to sing or play the ukulele. She liked to share pictures and videos of herself online. She also liked music and being outside. She even had her own YouTube page where she posted mostly about music and other things she liked. Anu asked on Facebook on June 7, 2013, if any of her friends with cars were free to go camping over the next weekend. You see, Anu had planned to go on a spiritual quest with some friends, but her family and friends didn't know that this would be her last trip. According to some sources, Anu asked her half-sister Cherry if she could borrow some of her camping gear. However, it is unclear whether she ever got any of it or had any of it with her while she was camping and getting ready for her spiritual trip. Unfortunately, we don't know much about Anu's faith or her spiritual quest. However, it's clear that she wanted to connect with Mother Nature as much as possible, and this journey would help her do that faster. Cherry later said that Anu seemed very excited about going camping on the phone call, and that she seemed like her normal self, happy, upbeat, and full of life. As planned, Anu found a ride and a group of friends to go with her. 2 days later, on June 9, 2016, she set out to the third campsite at the Canyon Creek Campground in the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest. The area is known to have lots of thick plants and tall trees, so only tents can be used there. Plus, it's almost impossible to bring an RV or anything else of that nature into this area, making it the perfect spot for a getaway from the busyness of everyday life. Many people who have been to the campsite say that the areas around it are difficult to get through because there is a steep hill that leads from the campsite into the dense national forest. The national forest is over 1.32 million acres, which is a very large forest. The weather was nice and warm, 70 degrees, when the group got to the campsite. Even though it looked like it might rain, it was a great day to go camping for the afternoon. It's not clear if the friends had anything to eat or drink while they were out there that afternoon, but since it was going to get cooler soon, it's likely that they made a fire at some time. There has been a lot of talk about whether or not the group drank or did anything else while they were in the woods. Many people say that this may have been the start of the terrible events that followed, but I don't have any information to back this up. No one from the group has spoken out about this, so I can't say for sure. That afternoon, though, everything seemed to go as planned until around 5 o'clock, when Anu suddenly told the group that it was time for her to go on the spiritual trip she had been planning for a long time. As soon as she said it was time, she took off all of her clothes, including her shoes, without notice. This caught everyone off guard. Even though she pretended it wasn't a big deal, her friends were shocked. After doing that, she quickly grabbed a fanny pack that had a map, a small knife, and matches in it. She then turned around and went into the woods, telling her friends she would be back by midnight. A lot of people have asked Anu's friends why they didn't stop her from going into the woods by herself, since she wasn't ready at all. However, Sheriff David Cox said that her friends thought she should do this because she had been talking about it for a long time. I wish we knew more about her faith and mental health at this time because it would help us understand this case a lot better. But sadly, we don't have that information. One thing is for sure, though, Anu didn't just decide that she wanted to go on this trip. She thought this was something she had to do. Before Anu disappeared into the woods, she gave her friends one last look at her smile as she left them. She was never seen alive again. The word missing 411 refers to people who have gone missing in a national park for unknown reasons. As it turns out, Anu's situation is very strange. Her friends patiently waited for her to return as promised, but when the temperature dropped into the 40s and it started to lightly rain, they got worried because she wasn't wearing any clothes and would be out in the cold and wet if she didn't get back to the campsite soon. She did have matches with her, so she could have started a fire, but if it started to rain, it wouldn't work. Friends of Anu felt that something had to be done when midnight came and went without seeing her. They called the Skamania County Sheriff's Office to report her missing. A search party was quickly put together, and police thought there was a good chance she would be found right away because they found bare footprints close to the campsite that looked like they could have been Anu's. They followed the tracks to Canyon Creek, which is not far from the campground. They saw that she crossed the creek without any apparent problems. That being said, many people are shocked that she made it that far because the path from the campsite to the creek is very high and it wouldn't have been easy to walk on, especially since she wasn't wearing any shoes. It was even more amazing that she seemed to have made it to Forest Road 54 after climbing up the other side of the canyon, which is also very steep. The searchers were not able to find any more tracks at this point, so they did not know which way Anu would have walked. It looked like she got close to the road and then disappeared. Nothing showed that there had been a fight. There were no clues or proof. It looked like she had just blinked out of existence. For help with the search dogs from a non-profit group called Pacific Crest Search Dogs were called in, but they couldn't find Anu's smell. At one point, searchers thought about calling in helicopters to help with the search from above, but by the next day, there was a thick cloud cover that made this difficult. Searchers didn't want to give up, so they kept looking in the area all day but couldn't find any sign of Anu. When it got dark, they had to stop the search because continuing would have put even more lives in danger. The search began again the next morning, but this time they couldn't find any hints about where Anu had been. Her family and friends began to worry that she had died. She had been naked in the woods for several days. The temperature had dropped several times, and it was raining and muddy everywhere. To put it simply, the situation was terrible. But what's really strange is that the search was stopped after only 2 days, which is not long at all for a missing person case. Usually, rescue workers will look for signs for weeks or even months. But in Anu's case, they didn't do that. Since the forest is so big and Anu could have gone in any way that hadn't been searched yet, it's not clear why this was done. Even though this choice seems very careless, I think we should believe that the sheriff's office had a good reason for making it. Then, Anu's family and friends made an urgent plea to hunters by calling the media and pleading with them to keep looking. The search did start up again that same week, which was what was intended. However, many people who watched the case are still confused about why the search was stopped in the first place, since no reason was ever given. This squandered a lot of important time. It's hard for me to understand how they could have tried to give up after less than 48 hours when Anu had no food, water, or shelter. Some hunters said the brush was so thick that they could probably walk right up to someone who was lying on the ground and not even notice them. This is an interesting fact about the search. They thought it would be very hard to find Anu now that she had been out in the weather for almost a week. This is a very old-growth forest, so it makes sense that there would be a lot of ground cover. Anu and her friends waited every day, hoping, praying, and pleading that they would hear something. It turned out that they got news just 6 days later, but it wasn't what they had hoped for. Anu's friends and family were told that the search for her was over at 6 p.m. on June 15th, just 6 days after she mysteriously disappeared. Not a single sign of her was found, and because it was very likely that she had died of hypothermia at night, the officials stuck to their decision. It was said that Anu was likely dead, and that was the end of it. Even after all these years, not a single sign of Anu has ever been found. Nobody still doesn't know where Anu went or what happened to her after she went out into the wild by herself almost 11 years ago. They also don't know if she was trying to get back to the shelter when she disappeared. As with most unsolved missing person cases, people who were following the case have their own ideas about what happened to Anu. Some of them make too much sense to be true. This isn't one of those usual missing 411 cases where everyone thinks the person was taken by aliens. Not at all. This case is very personal for many, and some of these ideas may truly be true. The most common and likely explanation is that Anu got lost in the forest and had to spend the night in a cave because she didn't have any clothes or food to keep her warm. She planned to continue her trip in the morning. In normal situations, this would have been a good idea, but Anu would have been much more affected by the cold weather and light rain, which is why many people think she died of hypothermia while she was sleeping. Why was she never found? That being said, it's possible that an animal took her off, which may sound scary. It seems like Anu's body parts would have been found eventually, but since there are a lot of wild animals in the area, it's also likely that there wouldn't have been anything left for rescue workers to find, especially with all the thick bushes. The next idea that has been talked about a lot is about Forest Road 54. Anu's footprints led rescuers to this spot where all signs of her stopped. Since it's a well-kept asphalt road, it has led to some interesting theories. Her tracks would have been on the other side of the road, but they weren't. This makes most people think Anu never crossed the road. Therefore, it has been suggested that she either followed the road and then went into a different part of the woods, or that someone picked her up when she got there. This is the idea that I also find most likely. We already knew that Anu's home area was very dangerous and full of crime. Could you picture what would happen if one of these crooks saw a 19-year-old girl standing by the side of the road naked? Some people have also thought that she might have planned to be picked up ahead of time and not told her family and friends. This whole thing might have been planned, and Anu just left to start a new life. This idea is very unlikely though, because no one in her circle thinks she had a reason to disappear, especially not in such a strange way. Most people think that Anu was taken against her will because she happened to be on the road at the wrong time. However, this theory has been heavily criticized because it seems to be exaggerated in most news stories, and investigators have said they don't think there was any foul play in her disappearance. So the idea that someone picked her up might be true after all. Search dogs couldn't find her smell again once they got to the road, and since she wasn't wearing shoes, her scent would probably still be there for a while if she had left on foot. I'm sure the dogs would have found something if she had ever walked down that road that day. The fact that her smell stopped there so quickly makes it seem off. Some people aren't sure, though, that Anu has died. A woman called Yasmin, one of her friends, said that it's always possible that she just got lost in the forest and has no plans to come back. A lot of different sources say that she said she might not want to be found. This idea might be right. Anu's spirituality and outlook on life make it seem possible that she may have used illegal drugs before her quest. However, Sheriff Cox said in an interview that there was no evidence that she had used any drugs or alcohol. He said it was more likely that she was just excited to go into nature by herself and got lost or didn't make it to shelter in time. Although Anu might still be living, it seems more likely that she would have reached out to her family and friends at some point to let them know she is okay and that they don't need to worry about her. This is because she is a very caring person. Not a single clue about what happened to Anu has ever been found, and it doesn't look like her family and friends will ever get the answers they are so desperately looking for. That's the end of today's case. Let me know what you think below, and make sure to like and subscribe for more true crime cases. Stay safe until next time.